Hey everybody, I wanted to do a super quick little tutorial on how to start the spiderweb pouch. So cute. So we're gonna go over this like little tambourine stitch and the beginnings of the blanket stitch around. So I've already drawn out my, I've done my patchwork. I'm using base fabric and a hoop. You can see I've already drawn out all of my circles using a water-soluble fabric pen. And I've got my length of thread. I'm using a long needle, but you can use a shorter needle. It's whatever you're comfortable with. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the very center of that center circle, and from top down, we are going to pull our thread. I always make a little knot, but you don't have to. But what you do want to do is leave a good little tail, because you're actually going to take this tail and poke it back down through to the other side once you've got your stitches established. Okay, so center thread. Now we're going to come up into that circle. You can see that. And we're gonna pull up, and then, whoops. Then we're gonna take and we're gonna lay our thread to the side. I'm right-handed, so if you're left-handed, you're gonna have to do this the opposite. So lay your thread to the left. You're gonna go right back into where we started. And I usually keep my finger sort of like on this thread, and I'm gonna pull this down. And then once I get it about, that long, I'm gonna stop. And then to the left, no more than, I'd say between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch, you're gonna poke your needle back up. And see how this is still going to the left and you're coming in on the right side. You're gonna pull that up, and then I kind of pull it to the side. And that is your first stitch. And if anybody's done blanket stitch, this is really similar to doing blanket stitch. Okay, so again, your thread is to the left. You're gonna go back down into that center stitch where we first started. And I'm gonna put my finger, I'm gonna poke that down, but I always put my finger here just because sometimes when you start pulling, you just pull like a little too far. Okay, now I've got my loop. I'm gonna come up again just to the left between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. Give it a little tug, back down to the center, and we're just gonna do this all the way around. So again, up, and I'll give you another little close-up. So as you can see, the stitches are starting to accumulate. So I'm gonna pull my needle up, sort of pull my thread to the left, and then I'm just going to continue down through the center where we started. Sometimes you'll have to pull this little tail out of the way. Back up and around. Give it just a gentle tug. If you tug it too much, it'll pull the stitches in, and you don't want that. You want to keep them pretty flat. So back down to the center, I'm holding on to my thread, up to the left, give it a good little tug, back to the center, get your little tail out of the way. And you can vary these. If some of them are closer together or a little bit further apart, it's okay. And if you want them more close together so it's almost solid, you can also do that. I like the way that this looks. So this tends to be how I do it. And I'll show you back down into the center, holding your thread to the left. Your needle should come up just to the left. And again, I'm right-handed, so if you're left-handed, do it the opposite. Pull your needle up and through, give it a little tug, and see how nice those little stitches are looking? So yeah, so down, hold on to your thread, up, little tug. All right, let me get this going, and then I will show you how to end this circle and then how to get up to the next level, because there's just a little trick, but it's an easy little trick. And as you go further around, this little tail tends to get a little more in the way, but don't worry, because we're gonna make it disappear really soon. Back up, little tug to the center, down, always holding onto your thread. It will make your life easier because you will inevitably pull it all the way down and through, and it's easy to get it back up. It just, you know, if you develop this habit now, it'll make doing this stitch easier. So always hold on to your thread. That's not, you know, the part that's on the top. Okay, so we're almost down to the last stitch. So one more time. And this time I'm gonna bring the needle up back right where so it would have been like the second step where the needle is coming up to the outside. Okay, let me show you. So I got it as close as I could. And then I'm gonna I got a little fly in the back. Let's see, okay, there we go. All right, now, I'm gonna give that a little tug. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna poke my needle down just on the other side of that elbow of thread, just right on the other side. And then I'm gonna pull down and through, and that's gonna kind of give you what almost looks, mine's not quite even, but that's all right. So that's just gonna lock that down. It looks like the tiniest little bump. Now what I'm gonna do, just because this will make it easier, I'm gonna cut that little knot. I'm gonna grab a shorter needle. If you didn't make a knot, you don't have to cut the knot. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually poke that needle down. And you can leave yourself a long enough tail so it's easier to thread, but I find for me personally, it gets in the way so much that I just leave a shorter tail. So now we're gonna thread our needle. Oops. So can you see thread of the needle? And then I'm just gonna pop that through to the other side. And you don't even see it. See? All taken care of, and now it's out of your way, so you don't have to worry about moving it. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go up to the next level. And so straight from that little bump that you just made, you're gonna go straight up and through, right there. So it's kind of wiggly right there. Pull your thread up, again, lay it to the left, and then you're gonna go down just slightly to the left of where you came up through the thread, about 1/8 of an inch. Pull that down, and then we're gonna pop up just like we were doing before. So we've made our loop, we've brought our needle up, so you can see we brought our needle up, and now we're gonna just, again, pull slightly to the left. And then we're gonna go over about 1/4 of an inch, and you can make these wider or narrower depending on kind of how you want your pattern to go, and you can vary them, you know. It's like I varied my circles. If you can see the difference in like the widths of my circles, because I like that kind of organic quality that creates, and so I'll also vary my stitches. Let me get a few of these. So yeah, you're just gonna continue kind of going over about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, and then you end up going over just slightly more than that, I guess, because it's almost like creating a wagon wheel effect, or slices of pie kind of thing. So I'm gonna pull, I wanna get around this, and if I can just, I wanted to show you how to start with another color. So I'm gonna go around, and I might just, let's see, I can probably explain it to you too. It's pretty easy to start a new color. But yeah, so I'm just going around, and as you can see, I'm not being like super particular about this. I'm just kind of letting it flow. And you can be as meticulous or not meticulous as you want to be. But I generally do make these further apart than the very center stitch. All right, so I'll do this slowly again. So you want to go about 1/4 of an inch over, go down, come back up just slightly to the side, further than that 1/4 of an inch. Up to the top, you're holding onto your thread, you pull it up and over and create that little elbow. So again, just like down and over. And the only difference you're doing on this compared to the center is you're actually just spacing those center stitches over, but it's that same sort of blanket stitch or buttonhole stitch style. These are getting a little wacky. But yeah, so just keep going around and around. You can of course do this all in the same color thread if you like. Variegated thread is really, really pretty when doing this. I just end up changing my thread colors. Okay, so we're back around to where we started. So you're gonna do that same thing. You're gonna poke your needle up from the back to the front, right into that very first stitch you started in this circle. Pull up, go just to the side on the other side of that, poke it down, give it a little tug, and then you're gonna go basically straight up from where you just ended. Pull your thread up, hold it to the left, go about 1/8 or 1/4 inch over from where you started, pull up, and we're gonna go around, and then I'm gonna run out of this color of thread, and so I'll switch and I'll show you how to start a new piece of thread, whether you're changing colors or keeping the same colors. And give yourself, you know, don't try to do this on too short of a piece of thread, because it's really frustrating. I'm gonna do one more, and I'm gonna poke it up, and then you're gonna do that same thing like when you end. You're just gonna poke this needle front to back, just on the other side of that little elbow, and pull it down. And then you're gonna wanna secure it on the other side. So I'm gonna flip this over, and I'm gonna do a tailor's knot to secure it. You can use your knot of choice. I just like a tailor's knot. And if you don't know what that is, you can look it up. Eventually I'll do a little, a whole little series on knots, because there's so many great knots, but tailor's knot is one that I use like often. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to this much, is this much lighter? Yeah, we'll switch to the much lighter, because it'll be easier for you to see, and it'll look pretty. All right, so I'm gonna, give me a second to thread my needle. Yeah, so I'm gonna use this like little collection of sort of khaki, light, medium, and sort of a charcoal gray to do my pouch. Because I thought the khaki was a nice reference to this color, and then just a variety of colors on the lighter gray I thought would look really pretty. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, again, we're working from back to front, so we're gonna poke our needle up from the back right next to that little stopping stitch we made. So if you can see, that's right there. Okay, so pull this up. I'm gonna hold my thread to the left. I'm gonna go down just a little bit over. Come up. And around, and away you go. And so it's really, really easy to start a new color. You're just starting, so hopefully you can really see that. You're just starting on the inside of that little elbow, and then just continuing with that same basic blanket stitch where you're holding the thread to the left if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, you're gonna be holding your thread to the right. Yep, and then down and up and around, and that's just what you're gonna do, and you're gonna keep doing that until you get to a 1/2 inch from the edge, and then you're gonna stop because that's where your channel is gonna go. So yeah, this is what the finished piece is gonna look like, and then you're gonna wanna cut it out and line it. But yeah, so right now, just keep going around and around, and I hope that helps everybody start their spiderweb pouch. And eventually I'll have a full-length tutorial, but it's gonna take a little bit longer. So I just wanted people to be able to get started, because this is actually like kind of like the trickiest part. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this, and I'll let you know when the full-length tutorial is ready, which will include like gluing down your patches or pinning down your patches, and we'll go over this again, working our way out, cutting out a liner, doing a buttonhole, sewing your channel, and threading your cord. So yeah, have a great day. Thank you. Bye.